The room went silent. Officer Grant held his breath. The plan had worked. The hidden camera caught it all. The woman everyone whispered about, the one they accused of scamming old white veterans for money, was finally caught red-handed. Or so they thought. The video showed her walking into the hospital room again. A frail white man lay on the bed. The woman, young, black, and dressed in a simple tan coat, smiled warmly as she placed a small envelope under the man's pillow. "Here," she whispered, "for your daughter's school fees." Grant leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "She's giving him money," one of the officers muttered. "No," said another. "This must be part of her act. Watch." But what followed wasn't a scam. The old man woke up and cried. His shaky hands grabbed hers. He called her his angel. He said she was the only one who visited, that his family had forgotten him, that this fraud had been buying his medication for months. And then she knelt beside him. "I know what they think of me," she said softly, "but I'll keep coming." The officers stared at the screen in silence, the same people who had planted the camera to catch her. Their elaborate scheme uncovered an act of kindness that left them speechless. But none of them could say a word, not when the real story behind her kindness was far bigger than what they had seen in that single recording. And none of them knew what would happen next, once she found out she was being watched. It all started 3 months ago, on a cold, rainy morning. Zena pushed her way through the wet wind, her coat soaked at the shoulders. She wasn't dressed for winter, but she didn't care. The hospital was just 5 blocks away. That meant 5 blocks of people avoiding eye contact with her, 5 blocks of tight jaws and half-turned faces. She was used to it. Since her mother passed, Zena had made it her mission to visit the old veterans' ward every Tuesday and Friday. It was her way of coping. Her mother had always taught her to see people, not skin. But not everyone felt the same, especially not the staff. They never stopped her, but they never welcomed her either. The head nurse, Mr. Benson, always narrowed his eyes when she signed in. Once, he even whispered to another staff member, "She must be after their checks." Zena had pretended not to hear. Inside the ward, it smelled like bleach and medicine. Her favorite patient was Mr. Charlie, 82 years old, World War II veteran. His legs didn't work, and neither did his memory sometimes, but his smile lit up every time he saw her. "You came," he said as she entered. "Always," Zena smiled, setting down a paper bag. Inside were fresh socks, some soup, and one envelope. The envelope had $60, money she had been saving from her weekend cleaning jobs. "You shouldn't," Mr. Charlie said, tears rising in his eyes. "I should be helping you." "You already are," she said. But what Zena didn't know was that her visits were no longer private. 2 weeks earlier, Officer Grant had gotten a call. "She's up to something," Mr. Benson had told him over the phone. "Always around the old white guys. Sweet-talking them. Who knows what she's taking?" Grant had been skeptical, but with enough complaints, the department gave him the green light to observe. That's when they set up the hidden camera. They placed it in a flower pot in Mr. Charlie's room, another in the hallway. They were sure they'd catch her slipping cash into her own pockets, or worse, forging signatures. They even had a team ready to move once she messed up. But all they got was kindness. Week after week, the videos showed Zena giving, not taking, talking, not lying. She'd wipe Mr. Charlie's mouth, change his radio station, buy snacks for the other patients, and even speak softly to those who couldn't reply. Some had no family. Some had no hope. Zena had given them both. Still, not everyone believed it. "She's clever," said Officer Dean. "Probably just playing us. Maybe she knows about the camera." "We need proof," said Grant. "Something solid." So they pushed further. They faked a patient, sent in an undercover officer pretending to be a dying vet with no money and no family. His name was Mr. Harlan. The plan? See if Zena would ask him for anything. Test her. But what Zena did next broke all their predictions. She walked in, asked no questions, and gave him her last $20. "There's a food truck outside," she said gently. "You need to eat." The officer didn't know what to say. It wasn't in the script. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. Zena paused. "Because you matter. And maybe no one told you that today." That night, when the officers watched the footage, no one spoke. Even Grant couldn't deny it anymore. But just as the truth was unfolding, something happened. Something they hadn't planned for. Someone leaked the footage. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. First inside the hospital, then across the city. Zena's face was everywhere. Social media posts labeled her the Angel of Ward C. But others twisted the story. She was being watched. A comment read, "Maybe she faked it." The hospital was flooded with reporters. People came to donate. Others came to question. But the damage had been done. And Zena, who had never asked for fame, was about to find out what happens when kindness is put under a microscope. That morning, as she walked into the hospital like always, she noticed the cameras weren't hidden anymore. They were out in the open, flashing, recording, watching her every step. Then someone yelled from across the hall, "There she is!" She turned, only to see Officer Grant walking toward her, followed by 3 other men in suits. And this time, they weren't hiding. Zena froze. The hallway, once quiet and filled with a low hum of nurses and patient monitors, now felt like a stage. All eyes were on her. She could feel them judging, watching, whispering. Officer Grant walked up with the other men in dark suits. His expression was hard to read, half guilty, half official. "Zena Nwoko?" he asked. She nodded slowly. Her hands tightened around the strap of her small bag. "You need to come with us." Her heart jumped. "Why?" she asked, her voice small. "It's not bad," he said awkwardly. "Just please come with us." Zena looked over at the nurse station. Mr. Benson was standing there, lips pressed tight, arms crossed, watching. He didn't smile. He never did. 2 nurses whispered behind him. A camera phone glinted in one of their hands. Someone else snapped a picture. Zena swallowed hard and followed the officers into a side room, one she had never been in before. It looked like a conference room, clean and cold. A laptop sat open on the table. The camera light was on. "Please sit," said Officer Grant. Zena didn't move. "What's going on?" she asked again, more firmly this time. "I haven't done anything wrong." "We know," one of the other officers said quickly. "We know now, but we didn't before." Officer Grant sighed and ran his hand through his hair. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. "We set up cameras to catch you," he admitted. "We thought you were stealing from the patients, taking advantage of them. You were reported." Zena's mouth opened slightly. "You spied on me." "I'm sorry," Grant said. "It was wrong, but we needed to be sure." Zena shook her head slowly. "So you watched me for weeks?" The room fell silent. Then, one of the officers pressed a key on the laptop. A video began to play. It was the recording from 2 days ago. The moment she tucked money under Mr. Charlie's pillow. The gentle hug. The smile. The prayer she whispered before leaving the room. "We were wrong," Grant said. "Every single time. We thought you had a plan, a scheme. But the only scheme was ours. And instead, we found someone who cared." Zena's eyes filled with tears. She didn't want to cry. Not in front of them. But the feeling was too much. "You thought I was a thief just because I'm black," she whispered. Nobody replied. She stood up. "I did this because no one else would. Not the hospital. Not the staff. Not his family. I wasn't looking for praise. I just wanted them to feel human." "We understand now," said the man beside Grant. "But the video leaked. It's gone viral." Zena's head snapped toward him. "What?" "It's everywhere," he said. "And now, people want to know who you are. Some want to thank you. Others, well, some think you faked everything because of the cameras." She felt dizzy. "I didn't know there were cameras." "We believe you," Grant said. "But the world out there, some of them don't. And someone dangerous, might be using this to make a point." Zena's chest tightened. "What do you mean dangerous?" Grant opened a file and pushed it across the table. Inside were screenshots, angry messages, death threats, racial slurs. She's making old white men look weak. She's using sympathy for attention. Fake do-gooder. Her stomach twisted. "But there's more," said the younger officer. He showed her another file, full of donations, messages of love. Cards mailed to the hospital from strangers. They're also calling you a hero. They want to help you help others. Zena stared at the papers, her hands trembling. I didn't ask for this. We know, Grant said again, softer this time. But it's already started. You need to be careful. People are coming here. Some want to hug you. Some want to hurt you. That was when the knock came. Hard, loud, urgent. All 4 officers turned. The door burst open, and a nurse rushed in. There's a man at the front desk, she said, eyes wide. He's screaming for her. He says she's brainwashing the old vets. He's shouting at Mr. Charlie. Zena's heart dropped. No. She pushed past the officers, running out of the room, down the hallway, past the stairs. She turned the corner and saw him, a tall man in a heavy jacket, face red with anger, pointing at Mr. Charlie, who sat in his wheelchair looking scared and confused. You leave him alone, the man shouted. You're filling his head with lies. You're using our vets to make yourself look good. Zena stepped between them. Stop it, she yelled. Leave him alone. The man turned to her. You again, he growled. I've seen your kind. Always pretending to care. Always playing sweet. But it's a trick. People started gathering. Someone pulled out their phone to film. Another whispered, Who is that guy? Mr. Charlie looked up at Zena with watery eyes. I don't feel good, he said softly. Zena reached for him, trying to calm him down. Then, in a flash, the angry man grabbed Zena's arm. Get away from him, he shouted. Before she could react, before anyone could stop him, the security alarm blared. Nurses screamed. Mr. Charlie slumped forward, and everything went black. Chaos broke out. Call a doctor, someone screamed. Mr. Charlie's body slid from his wheelchair as his head fell limp against his shoulder. Nurses rushed toward him, while 2 security men grabbed the angry man and dragged him away, still shouting. Zena dropped to the ground beside Mr. Charlie, her hands shaking. No, 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 Mr. Charlie, please, she cried, pressing her fingers to his wrist, searching for a pulse. Stay with me, please. His breathing was shallow. The crowd was frozen, watching. One nurse pushed through the group with a defibrillator, while another opened an oxygen mask. He's going into shock, she shouted. Zena backed away as the team surrounded him, tears running down her cheeks. It felt like the whole world was spinning too fast for her to catch up. She heard someone say, What did she do? Another, It's that video woman. And then a whisper, She caused all of this. Zena stumbled into the hallway, trying to catch her breath. Her heart was pounding too loud, her mind filled with noise. All she had wanted to do was show kindness. Now she had become a storm. Suddenly, she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. It was Officer Grant. His face looked worried but calm. Come with me, he said softly. You shouldn't be out here right now. I didn't hurt him, she said shakily. I would never hurt him. I know, he replied, but not everyone does. Not yet. He led her into an empty room. Inside, the curtains were drawn, and the soft light from outside tried to warm the cold silence. Mr. Charlie's going to be okay, Officer Grant said. They stabilized him. He's in ICU now. Zena covered her face with her hands and let out a shaky breath. They think I caused this, she whispered. Some people are afraid of what they don't understand, he said. Your kindness, it made some of them uncomfortable. It doesn't fit the story they've believed for so long. Zena lowered her hands and looked at him. You mean because I'm black? He didn't answer directly, but his silence said enough. I never asked for attention, she said. I just wanted to do the right thing. He nodded. And sometimes, doing the right thing brings the wrong kind of attention. Zena sat on the edge of a chair, her mind racing. What do I do now? Grant took a deep breath. There's something else you should know. The hospital board has been watching everything unfold. Your name is everywhere online, in the news. Some are demanding you be fired for disrupting the peace. Others are asking the hospital to publicly thank you. Zena blinked. They want to fire me? They haven't decided. But there's a meeting tonight. Zena felt sick. Her job, the place where she had poured out her love, her effort, her soul, was now on the edge of being taken away. And one more thing. Grant added carefully. Mr. Charlie's son is flying in from Texas. He's furious about what happened. He's blaming you. Zena's heart sank again. I've never even met his son. You'll meet him tonight, he said, at the board meeting. Zena stood, feeling a strange mix of fear and strength. Then I'll tell the truth. That evening, the sun dipped low as Zena walked slowly into the conference room, her hands trembling at her sides. Inside were faces, some familiar, some new, all serious. At the head of the table sat the hospital board members, including Mr. Benson. Officer Grant stood by the side wall. In a corner sat a man in a sharp black suit with cold, angry eyes. Mr. Charlie's son. Zena took a seat in the middle of the room. Silence wrapped around her like a blanket. We are here today, began Mr. Benson, to discuss a recent incident involving patient Charles Brenner and employee Zena Nwoko. Zena sat straight, her eyes meeting the boards. This meeting is open, continued Mr. Benson, and Mr. Brenner's family is present to share their concerns. Charlie's son stood up. His voice was sharp. I came here because I saw that video. Everyone saw it. She was too close to my father. I don't know what trick she was using, but I'm telling you, he would never have hugged someone like her. Something's not right. Zena's hands balled into fists. Her throat tightened. You people think because someone is kind, they must want something, she said softly. But I didn't ask for anything. I never even wanted to be recorded. I just didn't want him to feel alone. Mr. Benson frowned. And yet, Miss Nwoko, your face is all over the internet. And that encounter today, how do we know you didn't provoke that man? Zena's mouth opened, shocked. You think I wanted to be attacked? No, said a quiet voice from the doorway. All heads turned. It was Mr. Charlie, pale, tired, but standing, holding onto a nurse's arm. He walked slowly into the room. I asked her to come visit me, he said. I wanted her there. I begged her not to leave most days. She was the only one who made me feel human again. The room was dead silent. Charlie's son looked stunned. Mr. Charlie kept going. I don't care what color her skin is. She showed me more love than anyone else in years. And if any of you think she's the problem, you've got a bigger issue than race. You've got a heart problem. Zena's lips trembled. The board was speechless. Charlie's son stared down at the table. Then Mr. Charlie turned to Zena, smiled gently, and said, But I didn't come here just to defend her. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I came here to give her this. Zena slowly stood as Mr. Charlie handed it to her. She unfolded it with shaking hands and gasped. Her eyes widened. It was a will. She looked up at him. You can't be serious, she whispered. Mr. Charlie smiled faintly. Half of everything I have goes to you. Gasps filled the room. Zena stood frozen, and then everything exploded. The room erupted. Board members stood up, voices overlapped in disbelief. One man accidentally knocked over his chair. Mr. Charlie's son leapt from his seat. This is insane, he shouted. You can't give her our family money. She's a stranger, no worse. She's the one who nearly killed you. Mr. Charlie didn't even flinch. He looked his son in the eye. I'm still alive, Michael. And she saved me, not just once, but every single day for the last year. Zena was frozen, the will trembling in her hands. She couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe properly. I don't want your money, she said, her voice cracking. I never asked for this. Charlie nodded. I know, and that's why you deserve it. Michael turned toward the board, furious. Are you hearing this? She manipulated him, an old, sick man. This has to be investigated. Mr. Benson held up a hand. Enough. This situation has gone far beyond a workplace dispute. We'll need time to review the legality of the will and your father's mental state. I'm not crazy, Mr. Charlie snapped, louder than anyone expected from someone his age. His voice shook the air. And neither am I blind. I see how you all looked at her. Like she was dirt. Like she didn't belong in this place. But she's the only one who saw me like I was still alive. Everyone went quiet. The silence was thick with shame. Charlie turned slowly toward Zena. When I first got here, I was angry. bitter. I hated the nurses, the food, the smell of this place. I didn't want to speak to anyone. Then you walked in. Zena blinked fast, her heart squeezing. You never pushed. You just sat with me. Listened. Sometimes didn't even say a word. You read me stories when I couldn't sleep. You learned my favorite music and played it without asking. You remembered my wife's birthday when even I forgot. A few people in the room lowered their heads. Charlie smiled. And you never once treated me like I was an old white man who probably looked down on you, even though I did. Zena gasped softly. I was raised racist, Charlie continued, shaking his head. I believed things about people like you that weren't true. It took me nearly 90 years to figure it out, and it took you to make me see. Zena was crying now, silently. Her shoulders trembled, but she didn't move. Charlie stepped forward and touched her hand. I can't take back the man I was, but I can choose what kind of legacy I leave behind. Michael looked like he was about to explode. You're sick, Dad. You're clearly confused. She used you. Charlie chuckled weakly. The only person who ever used me was you, son. All those visits when you only came to check my account balance, the calls just before you needed more money. That wasn't love. That was business. Zena slowly sat down, unable to hold herself up any longer. Everything felt heavy and light at the same time, like she was floating and drowning all at once. I didn't want any of this, she whispered again. And that's exactly why it's yours, Charlie said. The board adjourned a meeting shortly after. They needed legal advice, emotional space, time to process what had just happened. Zena left the room without speaking to anyone. She walked to the hospital garden, where the sun had already set, and the sky had turned deep blue. She sat on a bench, her fingers gripping the folded will. How had her simple act of kindness led to all this? She closed her eyes, trying to find peace. But her mind kept racing. The hate in Michael's eyes, the confusion in the boardroom, the overwhelming kindness of Mr. Charlie. She didn't notice someone had followed her until a shadow fell across her lap. She looked up. Michael. Zena froze. What do you want? He didn't answer immediately. He sat on the other side of the bench, far enough not to be threatening, but close enough to talk. My dad has always been difficult, he began, voice low. He was cold, harsh, especially after my mom died. Zena said nothing. I'm not proud of how I treated him, Michael added, but I didn't expect this. She looked at him carefully. Didn't expect him to care about someone like me? His jaw clenched. I didn't expect him to change. That man you saw, that wasn't the man I grew up with. Well, Zena said, people can change, even old ones. He looked at her then, and for the first time, his eyes weren't full of anger. They were full of something else. Regret. I'm sorry, he said, for what I said, for the things I thought. I was wrong. Zena didn't know what to say. Michael stood up and looked at her one last time. You showed my father more love than I ever did, and maybe I needed to see that. He walked away before she could respond. That night, Zena couldn't sleep. Her phone kept buzzing. Journalists, social media, messages from strangers calling her a saint, a fraud, a gold digger, an angel, a liar. Everyone had something to say. But one message caught her eye. It was a video. Someone had secretly recorded the moment Mr. Charlie gave her the will. The room's gasp, his speech, her reaction. It had gone viral. And in the comments, a flood of people had shared their stories. Of racism, of kindness, of unexpected friendship between black caregivers and old white patients, of love that crossed lines. Zena scrolled through them with tears in her eyes. She had started something, and it was bigger than her. Just then, her phone buzzed again. But this time it was a call. The hospital. Her heart skipped. She answered quickly. Miss Zena, said a voice on the other end. Mr. Charlie, he's gone. Her heart dropped. He passed peacefully. Not long after he got back to his room. He wanted you to have this. Zena's knees buckled. She sat down on the edge of her bed, holding the phone close to her ear. He left a letter for you, the nurse said. Zena didn't speak. Couldn't speak. The nurse continued gently. Would you like us to read it to you now? Zena closed her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, please. The nurse took a breath before speaking. Dear Zena, she began softly, if you're hearing this, it means I've gone on ahead. Hopefully not too far ahead. I never like being early to anything. Zena gave a tiny laugh through her tears, eyes closed, heart aching. I don't know how to say goodbye. I've had too many regrets in my life to pretend I was a good man. But with you, I gotta try again. And I want you to know, you are my second chance. Zena pressed the phone closer to her ear. I'm sorry for every time someone made you feel small in this place, or anywhere else. You were never small. You were the biggest light in my last days. You made them worth living. There was a pause. The nurse sniffled. Charlie's voice, shaky but clear on the recording, continued. I watched you when you didn't know I was watching. You never took shortcuts. Never raised your voice. Even when you were tired. Even when they whispered behind your back. You carried dignity like royalty. And I started to wonder, what if I had met someone like you when I was younger? Would I have turned out different? Zena bit her lip to stop herself from sobbing out loud. I guess it doesn't matter now. But what does matter, Zena, is that I want the world to see the kind of person you are. The kind they say don't exist. The kind they say can't be trusted. But you, my dear, are the best of humanity. And you gave that freely. No price. No pride. Just love. The letter ended with a soft hum. Charlie's voice again, singing the song Zena used to play for him when he couldn't sleep. Lean on me. Zena placed the phone down gently and cried. But it wasn't just sadness anymore. It was something deeper. A mix of grief, gratitude, and healing. The following week, the hospital held a memorial service for Mr. Charlie. Zena was asked to speak. She stood in front of the crowd, hands shaking, heart thudding, as dozens of eyes, white, black, brown, old, young, looked at her. I met Mr. Charlie at his worst, she began. He didn't trust me. He barely spoke to me. But something told me to be patient, so I waited. She glanced at the front row. Michael sat there, next to board members who had once tried to get her fired. His eyes were soft now, his hands clasped tightly in front of him. Zena continued. What I didn't know was that Mr. Charlie wasn't just watching me. He was learning, changing, becoming something new in the last days of his life. And he taught me something, too, that even people raised in hate can choose love before the end. She paused. The kindness we show people, she said, her voice steady now, might be the only goodness they've ever known. So don't hold it back. You never know who's watching, or how it might change them. When she stepped down, the room gave her a standing ovation. Even the board members. Even Michael. After the service, Michael walked up to her. This time, there was no anger. No fight. I'm setting up a foundation, he said, in my dad's name, for caregivers and nurses, especially women like you. People who do the work no one praises. You'll be the face of it, if you want. And if you don't, it'll still carry your spirit. Zena was stunned. I don't know what to say. Just say yes. She smiled through her tears. Okay. The foundation grew faster than anyone imagined. Soon, Zena was invited to speak at events, schools, health conferences. Her story touched hearts across the country and far beyond. She didn't become rich, not in the way people expected. She donated most of what Mr. Charlie left her to the foundation. But what she gained was more powerful. She became a symbol, a reminder that even in a world full of racism and suspicion, kindness can break through. One quiet act at a time, one heart at a time. And in the most surprising places, schemes meant to destroy could uncover a light so strong, it left the world speechless. The end.